This mentality keeps you broke.
Latinos, blacks, poor people, even white poor people, have this crabs in the barrel mentality. And everybody want to be like, I'm the one. Not knowing that you greater with a team of people winning. I always loved that bar that Jay-Z said, if we fall, we be each other's crutches. Meaning, people think they want to be the one instead of having all your friends win. And when we need something or somebody, they can actually help us. If you the only guy winning, nobody can help you if you go through something. Right. I don't know why we taught ourselves to hate each other. And why we hate each other. Like why we want to hate each other, why we want to be jealous of each other.
So this is what I'll say about this. I think Fat Joe is both wrong and right at the same time. I think generally speaking, anytime that you are doing significantly better than people, they're just going to be envious of you. And a good example of this, I know a lot of guys can relate to this. Let me know, guys, if you've ever seen this around. You ever seen a guy, like an average looking guy, walk around or be with an extremely attractive woman? I'm not talking about like average, like I'm talking about extremely attractive women. How do other guys react to that? Majority of times, what I've seen in my own personal life, and this could be anecdotal or whatever, I've seen a lot of guys hate on that guy. I've seen them say things like, okay, oh, it must be the money. He's got to be rich for her to be with him. I've heard people say, oh, well, he doesn't really swing that way. That must be her guy friend. I've just heard a bunch of negative things from something just as simple as a guy going out with a very attractive woman. We even see this in school. In school, what is the smart person in class called? They're normally tagged with a negative name like nerd, teacher's pet. It just seems like whenever someone's doing significantly better than anybody else, that people are just naturally envious of them. I think that's where that crabs mentality comes from.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with your examples, but I don't know if you... So crabs in a barrel mentality is like... I don't know if it applies to what you're saying.
Yeah, you're talking about only one person can be at the top and that you don't want anyone else to succeed. And it has to do with a lot of hate and envy in those situations. And that's why I kind of brought up that... Because when I think of crabs mentality, when I really break down the situation, it's envy to me. That's all I see. I see it as envy and I see it as jealousy. Like, only I can be the greatest. Only I can be the best. Okay, well, why do you feel like you're the only one? Why would you be jealous if someone else could share the success? I just see it as being jealous or being envious.
Could be. I mean, I'm sure there's more than one reason for it. My whenever I think about it, my thoughts aren't from an envy and jealousy perspective. My thoughts are from a scarcity and lack perspective. So I'll speak on a specific community, particularly the black community. I do think that the crabs in the barrel mentality comes from growing up with lack and less than, which leads to a visceral reaction that you want to get as much as you can and protect it. And you're not really thinking about other people as much when you're on your way to the top, or maybe people in your community aren't of the same mindset as you, so therefore you might want to help them and you would be happy if they could help you as well, but they're not on the same level, not because they're not capable, but for whatever reason. And so you have to just go into focus on me getting out of the hood, so to speak. And so, you know, unfortunately, I mean, that's unfortunate because working together, you can get much further, obviously. So for example, in the area that we currently live in, there's a lot of development going on. And a lot of local businesses are being bought by... So I thought, this is true, a lot of local businesses are being bought by individuals, but they're also being bought by, what I learned, are families. And what is the ethnic background of most of these families? A lot of them are South Asian families, Indian. So for example, today I was told by a friend of mine that there's this old mall that's no longer really being used, and when it went out of business, it was bought by a group of Indian doctors. And so now the mall's being revitalized and reimagined into something different. But one doctor couldn't afford it. They could have got like a big commercial loan, maybe, I don't know, but they came together and they bought it. One time I was out, another story. I was out with my dad eating pizza at this pizza spot. It's like a Chipotle pizza style place. And we were just I don't know how it even happened. Oh, so I guess it was kind of empty in there. So the guy walked up to us and he's making conversation. Hey, how you guys doing? Blah blah blah. You know, we're just like, oh hey, we're good. How are you? Yada yada yada. What are you? You know, he's like, I was like, oh, are you the manager? He's like, oh, I own it. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. He's like, yeah, I own it. And you know me, I'm curious. I'm in the business, so I was like, started asking him questions, and he come to find out he owns a liquor store around the corner. He owned about 4 or 5 different things on that block. How do you get the money to buy all these businesses in that area? Family. So I think, you know, what Fat Joe is saying is correct. As people, and it's not just in South Asian people, we know it's other groups too, and I respect these groups. This is common amongst a lot of Jewish communities. This is common in East Asian communities as well. So I think that other communities could take a page out of this book for sure.
Because when you hear the word black community, people think it's all black people, and I think that's really more of a American black culture that is like that. Because when I see like a lot of the Africans who come here, they don't really have that mindset. But I do know that like sometimes in some African countries that they also have the crabs in the barrel mentality. But what I'll say is, yeah, I just think it honestly, it just has to do with the culture, and it has to do with the mindset of the people in that group.
I mean, you bring up a really good point, which I think that it is mostly a Black American thing when you're talking about the Black community specifically.
Yeah.
And even to drill down further, it's more of a Black American thing. People that come from a certain community or certain communities. But I think too, to say this, and I'm not one to really beat this drum.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is systemic. A lot of it's systematic. It was done purposely and intentionally to make it that way. Now, I'm not trying to absolve Black or, you know, our responsibility to, or Black American responsibility to pull, to be responsible for improving their situation, but it's harder. It's listen,
harder. It's harder thing, right? So the people back in the day, a lot of them actually did do this stuff by themselves. A lot of them actually did start businesses, and then there was a lot of systematic things that happened, and that got in their way. Understandable. But there are a lot of people today that don't have those same barriers, and they still have in a barrel mentality regarding that. Like I said, I think it's largely just part of the culture. I think a lot of people just fall victim to a lot of the media, I think is what it is. I think the media, unfortunately, runs a lot of Black culture, and what is pushed in the media, do it all by yourself. And that's pushed on both men and women. That's why you'll see women say, okay, I'm an independent woman. You'll push it pretty much, I can do it all by myself is what you hear a lot of the women say. The guys in general will say something similar to it. It won't be regarding women, but it'll be regarding like being your own man. Oh, I'm the man of the house. Like, just, I don't know. I just think Black American culture in general makes a lot of Black Americans feel like the only way that they can get to the top is just by themselves, and having help makes them weaker. A lot of success
that we see is like, it's like the iceberg. You see somebody that's successful and you don't realize all the things underneath of the water that have occurred to get them there. And a lot of people from other demographics, like a lot of upper middle class folks, right, who are successful, their family structure is a lot different than those who are in certain communities that are void of resources. And let's just take an example here. Education. Where we live at, very good school systems. Great education systems. You go there, you don't have to worry about a lot of things you have to worry about in the hood, for example. A lot of people in upper class, especially like rich families, they're taught personal finance from when they're children. They play Monopoly. They go with their fathers or their mothers to different deals that they might be doing. Maybe they're rehabbing a house on the weekends. They go with them.
They probably get added to their credit early on.
So all these different things they're learning early on.
Probably get life insurance.
So they're getting a completely different way of coming up than someone else. So yes, people can make it out of the hood, but anyone can make it out of the hood, but I mean.
But here's the thing, it's not. So I think what people get confused is that people put all of Black America in the hood, and most people in Black America are middle class. That's right. A lot of people in Black America even have decent jobs. So that's why I said it's more of the culture opposed to anything else. I don't think it's all scarcity, because some of them aren't living check to check.
Okay, so we're talking. So in my mind, I'm thinking about the demographic of Black folks that are living in poverty. You're thinking about the middle class Black folks.
Yeah, I'm thinking about most people.
Middle class Black folks, versus middle class other groups, they tend to have more crabs in the barrel mentality versus other groups.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I still see the same thing. Middle class in the hood. The hood is always going to be worse regardless. But I still see it with the same middle class black people. I don't see that big of a difference. I don't see that big of a jump in the mentality. It's just the choice of words might be different.
Well, I've also noticed that a lot of black folk, well,
but like I said, that's more of, like I said, it's more of cultural influence. The people who aren't so much into the media and the culture, I notice that they think a lot different than the people who are in it. I just think ultimately, the culture just tends to be more negative, and it tends to promote independence rather than unity. And that's an American thing, if we're just going to be completely honest, because that's where a lot of people in America are going towards. It's not family related, it's not community based, it's more so just me based, which is getting harder and harder to be me based when, I mean, a lot of people just can't afford it. Like, for example, like if this was 10, 15 years ago, for someone to be like 21, 22, or 23 and living by themselves, having their own house and car was completely normal, was completely fine, was completely doable. Now, like you see here the statistics now, a lot of people are still living at home. Like that's like the new normal now.
I'm going to go back to what you just said about like the American culture being the issue. I agree. And that's why you see in statistics when they break it down by ethnic groups who earn the most money and doing the most on different factors like education and different socioeconomic factors or metrics. The groups I named earlier are at the top of that list.
Yeah, are people that are furthest away from American culture.
Facts. And even African, going back to what you said earlier too, when it comes to black people, even Africans, they are higher up on that list than black Americans and even some other cultures because there's still that community. There's a heavier focus on being communal than being individualistic. So, and on family versus individual person by myself. And so even if it's not like, oh, we're going to come together as a group and do business, which a lot do, it's even still like, okay, in my family unit, we say, you got to go to school, you know, the classic,
yeah,
go be an engineer, go be a doctor, go blah, 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 blah. So I think that's taught in these groups versus a lot of other like American households, which is more nowadays. I want to be an influencer. I want to be on TikTok. I want to be a YouTube creator. I'm just kind of don't want to do anything, or I don't know. It comes down to, like you said, culture. And there's obviously cultures within America. It's not like one American culture.
Yeah.
So that's why you see certain groups in America outperforming others is because of that cultural aspect, I guess.
I mean, I think, and like I said, I think just a lot of people pay attention to the media because I've heard like I've heard so many people say so many dumb things. Like, oh, like I'm a lone wolf, no new friends, which is the dumbest thing possible. You look at all these successful people, what do they say? Oh, network. You have to network. You gotta have success. Okay, network, you're telling me you don't have any friends in network at all?
Blame your boy Drake for that.
I mean, that's technically DJ Khaled's song.
No new friends. Drake is one of the popular. Come on now, people aren't quoting DJ Khaled. The only thing people quote DJ Khaled for is "We the Best."
I'm just saying that's his song.
And another one.
I mean, people were saying that before Drake, though.
Stop. I'm just messing with you. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that like that's promoted is that people are like, oh, you don't need a lot of friends. When you grow up, you're not gonna talk to anybody and all this stuff. But here's the thing, though. When you see all these foreign people, they still talk to all their friends. That's why they call each other like uncle and auntie because they've known each other for so long, and their kids know, like they feel like they're a part of the family.
That's respectful.
And you see all these, people that have been friends for years and have connections for years, and it's the complete opposite of what they're teaching all these people on TikTok and all these other places where they're like, yeah, just be by yourself, be totally away from everybody. That's how you're going to be successful and you're going to blow up. And I'm like, that's dumb.
I don't watch that kind of content, but I'm sure it's out there being pushed to the masses.
It's all over the place. Say Fat Joe is right. So I think he made a good decision. What are you going to say?
Yeah, shout out to Fat Joe. I think he was spot on. So, yeah, good decision.
All right, decision makers. If you think Fat Joe was correct, leave a like, leave a comment. If you think he's wrong, you don't have a crabs in a barrel mentality, leave a like, leave a comment. All right, decision makers, don't have a bad mentality.